They told you the world began when Columbus got lost. They told you history started when Europe opened its eyes. But the truth is older. The truth is deeper. The truth is African. And today, you're about to reclaim what they buried. Did you know that before Columbus ever touched Caribbean sand, before Spain ever dreamed of empire, before Europe ever imagined crossing an ocean, an African king launched the greatest maritime expedition the world had ever seen? Not a rumor, not a myth, a documented fact. In 1311, the predecessor of Mansa Musa, the richest man to ever walk this earth, sent 200 ships into the Atlantic. Only one returned. The captain said, "We found a river in the sea," and the others were pulled into it. He was describing the Canary Current, the same current that carried Columbus straight to the Americas almost 200 years later. But here's the part they never teach. The king didn't retreat. He didn't fear the unknown. He didn't bow to the limits of his time. He built a fleet of 2,000 ships, stocked them with food, water, and provisions for years, and he sailed with them, a king, leaving his throne to chase the horizon. That is Africa. That is who we were. That is who we still are. Did they reach the Americas? History won't give you a straight answer. But the clues whisper louder than the textbooks. Columbus wrote that the people of Hispaniola told him black men had come from the south and east, carrying gold-tipped spears made of a metal identical to West African alloys. Spanish explorers reported seeing African-like people in the Americas. The colossal Olmec heads, 8 feet tall, 10 tons heavy, bare features scholars have debated for decades in the ocean itself. The currents, the winds, the natural highways of the sea all flow from West Africa straight to the Caribbean. This isn't fantasy. This is possibility. This is probability. This is history refusing to stay silent. So why didn't you learn this in school? Why isn't this in your history books? Why does the world pretend Africa never touched the ocean? Because this story breaks the spell. If Africans reached the Americas before Columbus, then Africa wasn't primitive. Africa wasn't isolated. Africa wasn't waiting to be discovered. Africa was a maritime power. Africa was a scientific force. Africa was a global explorer. And that truth destroys the foundation of colonial storytelling. Colonial education needed Africa to be small, needed Africa to be silent, needed Africa to be a shadow in its own story. A 2,000-ship African expedition doesn't fit the script, so they buried it. They dismissed African testimony. They ignored Arab historians. They erased the evidence. They protected the myth. Because if Africa sailed first, then Europe didn't discover anything. It simply arrived late. But here's the part they can't erase. A king gave up his throne to chase the edge of the world. A fleet larger than anything Europe had ever seen sailed into the unknown. With courage, science, and purpose. Africa was not behind. Africa was not lost. Africa was not waiting. Africa was leading. And today, you reclaim that truth. So the next time someone tells you Columbus discovered the Americas, look them in the eye and say, history is not always lost. Sometimes it is buried, and Africa is done being buried. Because you, your voice, your platform, your truth are part of the great unearthing. This is Africa betrayed. This is Africa restored. This is Africa